how many times do we have people ask us, hey, so my husband or my wife just isn't on board with these goals that I have. And I always want to ask, okay, so what does accomplishing the goal mean to the other person? Like, have you guys had that kind of conversation? Usually I get a lot of blank looks. They're like, well, we haven't really talked about that. I'm like, well, I know what it means for you, but it has to mean something of value to them too.
Hello, everyone. We are Greg and Jacquie Francis, and welcome to High Performance Parenting, where our passionate goal is to encourage you to raise champion children in a crazy world. Every week, we will bring you multiple episodes from our extensive experience of raising our six happy, healthy, successful, godly kids who are confidently equipped to win big in life.
We deeply believe that any parent who is provided with the right knowledge and continual support can raise amazing kids. And when they do, all of our futures get better. If raising up future generations of absolute champions matters to you as much as it does to us, here's how you can contribute. Like and share this podcast with everyone you know. And together, let's embrace this journey of raising champion kids in a crazy world.
Hey guys, welcome back. Super excited to chat with you today. We kind of mentioned it in our previous podcast, but one of the things that we've been working on here is organizing our calendars, organizing our time, and prioritizing what is most important. And maybe you guys can, kind of relate to this, but you kind of get a set way of doing things, and then it worked for a season, but sometimes the season changes, and so does your calendar, and you have to figure that out. And we kind of had some lessons learned this week, even how important it is to not only get our calendars in sync with each other and with our kids' schedule, but really not just the work part behind stuff, but the connection part for you and I. We've been in go mode with, the new school year and all that kind of stuff, but our calendar was not allowing us to take the time that we needed to spend time together and really connect versus kind of passing ships.
Yeah. I mean, just to give a snapshot of where we're at right now, because, obviously this podcast is about high performance parenting. So I know we have a lot of high performing people that are listening to this. But, as of we are right now, it's like we have, we're in a new location. We have new friendships forming up. We have gotten ourselves involved in new levels of mentorship, which is takes commitment and time. We have two existing businesses that we keep running and maintaining and, operating at a level of excellence. We're creating another arm of one of them here, which we talked about in a previous episode. We also have just launched a new business, which is, if you've ever done a startup, it's kind of like all hands on deck. You got to learn a lot of new things, and every role is your role kind of a thing. So, it just takes more time than you think and energy, and you're doing things that aren't normal or comfortable for you, or probably things you don't even have experience in. And it just adds a little mental and physical time to your schedule. We also have our kids are at the age where they're all getting different levels of sports, and we determine which ones they should be in or not. But still, I mean, there's schedules there that we have to be able to navigate. You throw in, we try to have some physical health time, whether it's me playing basketball a couple times a week and working out downstairs, you doing your runs, and you like to work out pretty much daily along the way. And then after all of that, we also still want to be connected as a married couple.
Well, and then you just throw in, we homeschool 6 kids.
And we homeschool, I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah. So it's not like...
Oh, and we do a podcast.
Yeah. So, you just throw in a couple extra things, and every minute of our time seems pretty busy right now, and it needs to count for something, it seems like. And so for a while we were flowing. It was summertime. We were kind of just going with it. But with the new school year and kind of moving into the new seasons with more responsibilities, we have quickly realized that we need to kind of revamp our calendars a little bit and look at what matters most to us and what matters for the future. And that's not just quality time, that's all aspects of life. What matters for us with our business goals, what matters with our health goals, what matters with our family goals. But through that all, we were kind of losing the connection for you and me, like you had mentioned.
Yeah. Well, in all transparency, we were getting into some arguments and stuff, and it's like, what's happening here? We're uptight, we're tense, there's high levels of anxiety. It feels like we're starting to fight about little things that aren't really big things, but when it came down to it, when you really get to the root of what we were starting to have arguments about, it's just like, I just feel disconnected from you. I just We have so many things that we can be thankful for right now, but if you and me aren't you and me, then none of it makes sense in my heart, And so we sat down this past Sunday. Gosh, we spent like 4 or 5 hours, didn't we? And we started actually we're in a new season. So the schedule that's been working is no longer working. So now let's lay this thing out. But then we got back to what are our priorities? Because it's so easy to have a priority per project or per business or per category, sports, whatever, homeschool. But what's our overall priorities? For us, it almost always comes back to, you and I want to be deeply connected. We want a better marriage every single year. We want to have goals that at the end of every year, we're stronger, tighter, more spiritually connected, deeply maritally connected. We're on year 20 of marriage this November, and we want to keep pressing for goals because we know from experience that when you don't have goals, it's like things start falling apart, slowly. And we don't want that. It's just like working out. If you have no goals, if you never do any workouts trying to accomplish anything, it isn't like you're going to stay in shape forever. And your marriage is the same way. Parenting is the same way. Your connection with your kids is the same way. And so we were just reevaluating and kind of putting some things in perspective again. And then once you put that perspective down and we get an agreement about this, then it's like, okay, now let's take all the things that are on our plate and let's start putting some time blocks to these and in ways that will make sense so we can be productive, but also keep our priorities where they need to be.
Yeah, and I truly suggest if you're in the situation where you're like, this sounds like a good exercise for us. Like, this is something that I think we need to do. We need to sit down and kind of look at our calendars again and really prioritize stuff. I highly suggest you take the time to do it together and really hear from each other about what matters for each person.
Yeah.
Because again, being transparent, we did it wrong. I mean, the week before that, we're kind of like throwing ideas out here and there, not really hearing each other, what matters. Then we're arguing about what you want to do is more important than what I want to do. And we're really not on the same page, but we're not on the same page.
Yeah. It's like we were both doing things that are good, but we were still having a bunch of, I don't know, just like disagreement or lack of alignment versus what we want. Right.
So once we sat down and took a good chunk of our day where we were both in the state where we wanted to come up with a solution, not just, I want to do it my way.
Yeah.
Not your way.
Not just defending your position. Yeah.
Right. And we were actually in a position to open up our ears.
It took us about 3 weeks to get to that point.
I mean, only 3. I mean.
It's better than in the past.
Oh, it's way better than the past.
We used to have our half a year standoff sometimes.
Yeah. We're trying to help people here, please.
Yeah, I know, because nobody else has that issue.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot. We're perfect.
Yeah.
Just so you guys, in case you didn't know.
I don't think they think you are, honey.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that.
But so we sat down and we were really able to dedicate some real time where we both were open enough to hear from each other.
Yeah.
And once we did, I will just tell you, we kind of started rearranging our thoughts, rearranging our ideas, like several whiteboard, things later. We walked away both very excited about what we're trying to accomplish here, and what we're trying to do and the time that we can put into it, without any anxiety towards it or anger towards it or like resentment for it. And it wasn't any more like, I'm giving up this for you to get that. It was like, okay, we are in it for our goals and dreams together. And our goals and dreams have a lot in there, I mean, whether it's our financial goals, our health goals, our family goals, our relationship goal. And once we did that, we were able to come up with a better solution that could take us into the next season. We might need to change it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But right now for this season,
for sure,
it's going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, how many times do we have people ask us, hey, so my husband or my wife just isn't on board with these goals that I have. And I always want to ask, okay, so what does accomplishing the goal mean to the other person? Mm-hmm. Like, have you guys had that kind of conversation? Usually I get a lot of blank looks. And so they're like, well, we haven't really talked about that. I'm like, well, I know what it means for you, but it has to mean something of value to them too. And that's exactly what we did. We sat down and we're like, okay, what does it mean to be deeply connected as a married couple? And it's a little different for each of us, probably the way we would describe it and define it and, the different needs that we each have within that. But once we start realizing that, okay, being deeply connected or more connected per year this is what, in that category, this is what it means to you. This is what it means to me. So now let's work together on how to accomplish that goal. And we're both in support of all the tasks and the plans that have to happen in order to get there, right?
Right. And to give freedom for the other person within that to do some things that they need to do on their own.
Yeah.
Realizing that both of us do things differently.
Yeah.
And one's not better than the other, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
And so to honor that is so important, especially if, like in our situation, most of our projects, we work on all of them together.
Sure.
You know, some people might not have that scenario. You know, they have husband doing one thing, wife doing another. But even then, you need to make sure that all your calendars are lining up with what you really want, and not to take on extra stuff that isn't going to line up with what you ultimately want. I mean, one of the things that we just went over literally last weekend was, before we start committing to anything else, we need to explain to the person or whatever, hey, I really appreciate that. Let me think about it for a couple days and get back with you. And what that really means is, let me go home and evaluate that with my husband or my wife.
Yeah.
And see if it lines up with what we can do right now.
Right.
And if it does, the answer is yes. But if it doesn't, the answer is no, not right now.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Right. For sure. So, a couple things, and maybe we'll get in this a little bit deeper in the next episode, but I think, when you start deciding how you're going to manage certain things, now you got to put in priority what the most important time blocks are. So if one of our most important time or objectives, I should say, is for you and I to stay deeply connected. Okay, well, now as a couple, what does that mean for us? Because for another couple, it might mean something different. But we've had to figure this out. For us, one of the things is that you and I, we need at least a monthly date night where we have a series of questions that we kind of talk through. It gives us an outlet to be able to talk through important topics so things don't build. And also, it allows us to be able to navigate our day in the heat of serving people and doing business endeavors and doing what we have to do to the kids, where we don't have to stop everything to have this conversation, because we know we're going to have a conversation about this within the next couple of weeks, right? But we need to prioritize that and set a schedule. That's one of the things that we kind of started getting loose on since we've had this whole transition over the past 6 to 12 months, because we were pretty good about that for a while. We were pretty good about this consistency. And we put it in the calendars, and we were committed. And then all this freedom happened, and we need all this flexibility. And it's like, okay, where did that go? And now we're getting back on track, right?
Well, and really, what if we remember, it was a lot easier before, because when we lived at our lake house, my parents lived 20 houses down the road.
Yeah.
So anytime we wanted to go do something, if a babysitter couldn't do it and stay with the kids, then my parents were always excited to stay with the kids for a night or two while we got away.
Yeah.
But here we realized my parents aren't 20 houses away from us anymore.
No.
And so we had to start getting creative with what that looks like, to find somebody that can stay with the kids at night so we can go and enjoy ourselves.
Yep.
And so we found a fix for that this week.
Yeah.
We had been interviewing for some time to find somebody that we could trust to take on some more stuff for us. And it worked out for us, where we finally found somebody that we trust to stay either with the kids or take on some business stuff that we don't need to take the time for, or, track down things that we need help with, whatever it may be. And I will just tell you again, that is something that I want to encourage every couple that is working hard, high performer, like have a lot on your plate, you're trying to achieve many, many goals, is we've always had, especially when our kids were smaller, help at the house. We've always had help. Even before we lived next to my parents or anything, we've always had help in seasons. It was a priority for us to hire somebody that we could trust with our kids so that we could get done what we need to get done too, and that our kids were provided for. And then also we could take some time for ourselves to get away.
Right. Yeah, it's huge. And for us, it doesn't have to be anything super fancy. It just needs to be, we don't have the normal obligations within our life for an afternoon, an evening, and maybe in the morning. And it really does something pretty special for us. So anyway, when we start blocking time, we looked at the calendar. For those of you guys that don't do this, you might want to do this, especially if you have very busy schedules. We literally have like all of last year's calendar on the wall, so you can see the whole thing in one view, and we have all of next year's up there. And so we're starting to fill this out. We're not fully done yet, but we're getting there. And so, okay, priority. All right, we want to fill in some date nights. There's other things that we have to put on the calendar that are major obligations. If we're running a conference or if we're, committed to some kind of a leadership that we do a few times per year, whether it's like a man maker thing that I do or whatever, we put those on the calendar, but then we still figure out, okay, around that, what day that month are we going to do a date night? And we try to map it out for like 12 months.
We do. And we try to stick to them because what we figured out was that if we don't put it on the calendar and we don't put it in a priority in our calendars, like even our personal calendars outside of the big calendar, that all of a sudden that really important, Zoom call needs to take place, or that really important meeting, or all of a sudden the kids really want to go do blank, and everybody else is more important than us.
Yeah.
And if we had just taken the time and said, you know what, this is our time. I know you like all that stuff is important, but if we can't do it before or after this, it's going to have to wait because we're more important than all that.
Right.
And that's the key to the whole thing, is not thinking that whatever goal you're trying to accomplish next is more important than husband and wife staying connected. Because so many times, I mean, you say it a lot, is none of that other stuff matters if we're not connected. Otherwise, we're just out there.
It doesn't even work well.
No. Nothing flourishes and nothing goes well then.
Yeah. Well, we'll continue this in the next one.
All righty.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening and thanks for your love and support. We hope that today's episode added tremendous value to you and your family. It would mean so much to us if you would partner with us on our mission of helping parents around the globe raise champion children in this crazy world.
To do so, simply take a moment to like and share this podcast with everyone in your network. And we have great news. You get more of us. You can expect new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. So be sure to consistently tune in with us and enjoy our show. See you next time.